very difficult to talk about the others because we have known each other and been friends for so long that kind of we all know one's own little idiosyncrasies and put up with them and kind of annoying little habits, but there's an amazing amount of, you know, strength there and friendship.
When in years to come people reflect upon the popular music culture of the 90s, one trend that will stand out is the rebirth of guitar-based music. Many will credit bands like the Stone Roses and the Charlatans for inspiring the Britpop generation to counterattack the synthesized vocal group phenomenon. Mainstream musical culture at last had a choice between the Spice Girls and Oasis, as record companies once again realized the lucrative potential of live guitar music. It was hailed as the rebirth of the 60s, a commercial swing that would probably be another fickle fad. Half a decade later, amidst the imminent demise of Oasis, we are entering a richer, more innovative era of music, certainly worthy of comparison to the pioneering days of the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix and Pink Floyd. One band who have survived rock music's various facelifts are U2. Rather than allowing the diverse shifts in sound and style to hinder their progress, U2 have continued to adapt, embracing change and using it to their advantage. Over the past 10 years, there has been another band in particular who have always fought to maintain their own unique identity in spite of the cultural changes happening around them. Once cruelly tagged the ugly band of rock, Radiohead's career has spanned 3 albums. They have continued to keep a low public profile and let their breathtaking music to do the talking for them. Their body of work to date culminates in the award-winning OK Computer, an album that finally made the industry and the public alike sit up and truly take notice of the Oxford Quintet, once simply known as the Creep Band.
First time I actually came across Tom's sort of music, I was acting in a play. It was Midsummer Night's Dream, and Tom was doing the music with this other guy, and Tom was playing guitar. And the musicians, it was him and this other guy, were on top of the scaffolding in the school theatre, and it was kind of like a workshop thing going on. And I always remember sort of the director sort of, you know, saying, look, what the hell's going on up there? Well, we're on this scene, and Tom yelling down at him, sort of swearing, effing and blinding, sort of like, I don't bloody know where we are, we don't care, we're going to just do our own thing up here and jam. And he was very difficult not to notice.
Tom Edward York was born on the 7th of October 1968 in Wellingborough, Northamptonshire. His father was a champion boxer, but from an early age it was apparent that Tom's frail physique would make him unable to follow in his father's footsteps. Not only was he slight of frame, but he had a lazy eye, which also meant that much of his early life was spent in and out of hospital undergoing surgery, although attempts to correct his eye were finally halted. Tom was left with a minor permanent disfigurement, and predictably he was teased at primary school, earning him the nickname Salamander. At the age of 7, the York family moved to Scotland, before once again heading south to finally settle in Oxfordshire. Tom developed an early love for music, and aged 8 he was given his first acoustic guitar. After 3 years of hard practice, it was time to join a band. But rather than opting for the conventional 4-piece approach, he formed an odd duo with a school friend. Their performances consisted largely of Tom screeching away on his guitar while his partner rewired television sets. Even at this young age, Tom's approach to songwriting was notably more intelligent than would be expected, although only one song from the group's repertoire carried any weight, a bizarre melody called Mushroom Cloud. Following primary school, Tom attended Abingdon All-Boys Public School, where he spent much time developing his talents in the music room. His fascination with music was becoming more intense by the day, and at home his bedroom was a mess of Joy Division and magazine albums. Looking to share his passion for songwriting, Tom forced his way into the school punk band TNT, where he quickly developed a strong friendship with the bassist Colin Greenwood. It soon became apparent that no one in TNT wanted the responsibility of singing, so the new recruit grabbed a broomstick, tied a microphone to it, and gave it his all, while the rest of the band fell around in hysterical laughter. After only a brief spell in TNT, Tom became disillusioned by the band's lack of drive and creativity. He and Colin now spent a lot of time together, and they had established a reputation of being something of an odd pair, often seen attending school parties dressed in velvet dinner suits, armed with their Joy Division collection. Colin soon followed Tom out of TNT, and they spent an increasing amount of time together, developing ideas and forming a new band. 2 soon became 3, when Tom was introduced to Ed O'Brien. The son of a doctor, Ed's first experience of Tom was on the set of a school play. Ed was among the acting cast, while Tom provided improvised music with a couple of the other guys. When the director stopped the proceedings to find out exactly what it was the band was supposed to be playing, Ed heard Tom retort from the scaffolding, "How the fuck are we supposed to know?"
They'd had a previous keyboard player who was sort of into quite loud keyboards in a Genesis kind of way. So I thought, well, the way to stay in this band would be to be very quiet. So I brought a keyboard, played it in the band, but always had the volume on 0. Always, always. So no one could hear a note I played.
Really cunning.
which really worked. They kept saying, wow, the keyboards really add something. It's kind of, they kept saying, the euphemism they kept coming up with was, they said, well, these keyboards sound like, you can't hear them, but if you took them away, then you'd notice they were missing.
The newly formed trio soon began rehearsing with the aid of a drum machine, which eventually stopped working. It was time for the 3-piece to think about replacing it with a human. Their drummer came from a band called Jungle Telegraph. Phil Selway was older and a part of a gang who dished out regular beatings to Tom and his friends. It was to be Ed who was handed the unenviable task of approaching the Graph, as Phil was known. Managing to act suitably cool, Ed persuaded Phil to attend a rehearsal. However, any preconceived ideas that the Graph may have had about being the automatic boss of the group, just because he was older, were soon quashed, when during the first jam a frustrated Tom asked him if he could play any fucking quicker. While the group were practicing hard and giving rare public performances, it was evident that Colin's younger brother, Johnny Greenwood, was eyeing their progress with envy. 2 years their junior, Johnny was already a proficient guitarist. Inspired by the likes of Paul Weller and Magazine, he had bought a Rickenbacker, complete with various effects pedals. With all of this at his disposal, he soon began to develop the unique style and range of sounds by which he is so recognisable today. He was also adamant that he too would be part of the band. Finally one day, while sat at home watching TV, he received a phone call from his brother, inviting him to bring his harmonica to a rehearsal. Although Tom can't remember the exact time Johnny joined the group, he does recall that suddenly they found girls turning up to the practice sessions. Gradually, the quintet became more and more passionate about their music, and much of this was down to the unique nature of Tom's songs. They had an edge and an intensity not usually associated with school bands. The only people who didn't enthuse about these developments were the respective parents, who were growing concerned about the increasing musical distractions. All 5 band members were academics of some potential, and a university education was very high on the agenda. Having named themselves On a Friday, after the day of the week on which they rehearsed, the band began to play gigs. At this stage, Johnny's role was limited to simple harmonica and fairly crude keyboard playing. In 1987, the progress of On a Friday was brought to a grinding halt, while Colin, Ed and Phil pursued their higher education degrees. Colin had achieved everything that was expected of him when he earned a place at Cambridge University to do an English degree. Phil attended Liverpool, again to read English, while Ed studied